Listen, guys, we got 1 minute to spare. We are on the ball today. Are you kidding me?
I
Welcome back.
can't believe it. It's not 7:30 yet.
we
Wow.
made it on time with 3 minutes to spare, according to my time.
Yeah.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the I Think We're Live podcast. I hope you guys are having a great week. If you can hear my voice, I got a little had a little trouble this week with the old cold. The measles are going around. Thank God I escaped those. But we had a bunch of things in Los Angeles at the airport and stuff, measles outbreak, and but everybody's getting sick. So excuse the voice and the hawking and hacking. Hope everybody's having a good time. This week we are going to chat about some Paul Gilbert. So basically, every week we kind of talk about the stuff that we've been involved in, transcribing, learning, all that stuff. So that was the kind of the advent of what we were doing here. I was like, Steve, man, we got to, how cool would it be just to share licks each week and just chat about it and chat about the new stuff? Because every time we talk, we always end up, he tells me, oh, did you see this video? I'm like, no, and same thing back and forth. And so besides the stuff we're learning, we get into the head of somebody else. So if anybody's watching this, please like, subscribe, do all that stuff. I know it's silly, but it's got to be asked because I'm reminded, because it helps the algorithm and stuff when we're trying to build this little community. So please join the chat. Let us know where you're from, what you're doing, and what you guys are looking at. And if you have any questions for us, please do join in. But me and Steve, we are going to talk about, this week for me was Paul Gilbert. I saw a kid do some really cool picking thing, and I didn't know where it came from. And I sent the video to Steve, and somebody in the comments of the video said it was get out of my yard. And then I watched, and it didn't sound like it, because what get out of my yard is kind of a lot of sweep picking arpeggios. And but this progression sort of sounded like it. So then I sent it to Steve, and he said, yeah, I think that's get out of my yard. So I'll show you that video. It's a really cool picking lick, very clean. This kid does it really impressively. So I was like, man, I got to figure that out. And then the other thing was there was a Rick Graham thing. Again, I'm still in that boat of trying to figure out my alternate picking and getting that down. I don't know why I'm so obsessed with that right now, because it's really not my style of playing. But it's just a fun thing I'm doing at the moment. And Rick Graham had a really cool thing of, he always has these scale runs or arpeggio runs, and then he goes into these scale licks, and just it's so much fun. His articulation is so good. But there's a cool way of him doing kind of like the Van Halen pattern, where it's instead of doing a normal scale, he just does a pattern scale into a melodic minor kind of picking thing on the top two strings. And you're like, and he discusses it, even saying how, I could have done a melodic minor scale up into this pattern, but it's cool just to do this little shape pattern. It's a lot easier with the left hand. And so we'll discuss that. Steve was going over the Doug Rappaport stuff from last week, and he's got that nailed. He sent me a video of him doing it, and we're going to make fun of him. But anyway, so that's a lot of chat. Sorry about that. I'm a chatter. Like I said, join in if you're interested. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Share this video so other people can know that we're doing this right now and join in. Steve, how you been,
Dude,
man?
I love this voice, man. The bass is awesome. Like I am feeling some old school AM radio vibes, dude.
Totally AM. I didn't
Yeah.
make it big league to FM, but AM for
No.
sure.
Well, it's the 70s, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got that
It's more
like,
college campus radio.
yes.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
hey, you got to start somewhere. So, yeah, how you doing, man?
Good. I mean, it was a good week. It was fun. We're also going to talk a little about ToneX. I finally downloaded. I had to. I kept watching more of those Van Halen pack things, so I downloaded the 78, 79 pack, and
Mhm.
was not impressed at all when I first got it. Again, just out of the box. Everybody I see, Cameron Cooper, I'm sure you guys know this on YouTube, Cameron Cooper, all these other guys. There's this one long hair blonde guy, I forget his name, but he does a lot of videos on it. All Van Halen stuff, like really, really good. And but he's definitely, a lot of these guys are sponsored, not paid sponsorship, but they get the software and the pedal for free. Um, but they all sound really great. And even Cameron Cooper was saying that he plugs directly the sound he was getting on all his videos. He's plugged directly into the ToneX. He plugs that into the THR, the Yamaha amp, and he uses that for basically some effects, but basically the tones, the ToneX pedal. And then he plugs that into his computer, and that's the sound you're getting. Well, every time I loaded up that tone, and man, I was not getting it at all. Like it was just, it was very noisy. And again, we'll get into this when we discuss it. There was so much noise and hiss. There was just the echo that I was initially hearing wasn't there. So that was definitely my software thing that I was having a problem with at the beginning. But the tone, the initial, the actual tone was sort of there, but it was so thin and not inspiring. Then I went and dialed in, and I started using different outputs. Instead of the headphones, I was using a semi FR. I was using my studio monitors, and both those I nailed some tones that I can't stop playing. They're so good, dude. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, now I plugged this into my interface. I plugged the ToneX into my Yamaha mixing board interface to go to this podcast, and the tones sound totally different. So that's another discussion we're going to have, how you really have to dial these in. And Steve told me that early on. He said, when he dials in a tone, he literally marks it not only as the name of the tone, he renames it, but he names it for the guitar he's using because it changes with every pickup you use. But we'll get into that in a bit. What about you, Steve? You've been working on the Doug Rappaport stuff, and what else?
Yeah. So, well, this week I did that Doug Rappaport lick, which we'll get into down the road a little bit. And I was also kind of going back to some jazz stuff. I was working on some Kenny Burrell. I've been on a huge jazz kick lately. Yeah. And most of the week, obviously, I'm at work. So it was definitely a week where I didn't have as much time than I would have liked to. I had to go to the DMV this week, and that was a whole, that's, if hell ever wanted to get a whole art, have a whole setup of where they want to base everything on, go to the DMV in New Jersey. It is eternal waiting, damnation, sticky floors, sadness, misery. It's just, the whole thing was just not a good time. So that was my Tuesday, 2 hours at the DMV. And then I ran into I'm looking over and I go, I'm sitting there, on my phone, and I look over and I'm like, is that Bart Scott from the New York Jets? And I'm sitting next to Bart Scott from the Jets, and I'm like, oh, cool, man. It was like, it was fun. So that kind of made the DMV sort of quasi, okay. But yeah, no, as far as guitar playing this week, it's been mostly that Doug Rappaport lick and some Kenny Burrell. I've been working on a lot of that lately. So we'll talk more about that, but let's get into it, dude. I think all right. From we were talking, you have some cool stuff planned, and let's not beat around the bush. Let's play some guitar.
All right. So in celebration of a good week happening, I'm going to start out with, we got the old Hibiki. We're going back to it. I ended up going to Costco, buying a fresh new bottle because, you see, I got nothing left. If you don't know about this Hibiki stuff, I'm an alcoholic. No, you're an alcoholic. I'm not an alcoholic. So that's our other podcast. This is Japanese wine or whiskey that is absolutely, this is some of my favorite stuff. It's so unbelievably smooth. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. And that's why the bottle's empty. But I'm going to top this off and get this thing started.
Nice.
So I hope everybody's having a good weekend. That thing is gone, and let's get into this. Let's start out with. You want to start out with your Doug Rappaport? What you had going on?
We can play that for sure. And okay. If there's anybody watching as well, just let us know how our levels are, and
yeah, if there's any echo stuff, because every once in a while we have some echo issues. So cheers. Thank you for joining us, and let's get started. Oh, that's so delicious. Oh, my God. You get the nutty flavor and the vanilla, and the... All right, let's get Steve's video up. This video is kind of small in... He sent me an iPhone video, and it's a little bit small, so... But this is him playing that lick last week. That if you're interested in this lick, it is from our last podcast. We go over the whole thing. We transcribed it. It's a really cool sweep picking arpeggio. It's articulated amazing, but also his phrasing at the beginning of the lick. You'll see Steve doing it. and it's just this really cool bendy phrase kind of. It's such a vocal thing, and here we go. Let's get the screen share. Let's get the desktop audio on. So good. So good. Yeah, that's awesome, dude. You did great, man. I see. So were you picking all of that? I wasn't really seeing the right hand very well at certain point. But were
Yeah.
you?
No, so what I did was very deliberate. It was definitely alternate picked, and very much when we were speaking during the week, I was hyper focused on that articulation. So really trying to keep that. In fact, so much so, the articulation of that first measure before it goes into the sweep pick
Mm-hmm.
um, took me so much longer than the actual sweep pick,
Right.
because there was a couple of things. I mean, first off, it's that weird triplet. The timing kind of gets thrown off a little bit, and then just the way he has that articulation, I just kind of, like, I was like, if I'm gonna learn something, I want to learn it as close to what the original guy is doing. And I was like, I gotta nail that articulation to the point where I feel comfortable sharing it, obviously, because then when you're playing it, also I want to try to pick up what Doug is thinking. So the cool thing about that lick that I really, after kind of spending some time with it, first off, the bend that he came in with is so reminiscent of Russ Parrish.
Right.
If you listen to the Russ Parrish record that he did when he played with Rob Halford, there's a lot of those type of bends. Now,
What was
also,
that called? What was?
that was Fight, World Worlds.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah. And so I had the benefit of being one of Russ's students when I was at MI, and I had him for live playing workshop. And then I was always in his open counseling. And the one thing that he did a lot of were those bends where you would bend up, come back down, and then go back up. And it was so like, it just made a statement. And hearing Doug do that as well, it just makes a statement. And it's perfect to either end a phrase with or begin a phrase with. I don't necessarily think that there's really a middle ground for those kind of bends.
Right.
You know what I mean, Dave? Like, doesn't it sound like those kind of bends you don't really want to, you either want to kind of end the phrase or begin a phrase with those?
Yeah, I mean, there's so again, it's so vocal-esque, right? I don't even know if I tuned up my guitar or anything, but if you the whole let me get this camera down just a little bit. It's so see, let me know if that sound's coming through, but the way it's just it brings you in, like it's like, whoa, okay, here's somebody just saying one word to you, and that's
Yeah.
it, right? And it's literally, then I'm gonna go and again, it's the vocal thing, like a real smooth thing to a real big kick, and then it does a few note phrase, and then it stops, and then it goes into the, and that leads you into, especially, it's hanging on that note, waiting for something else. And then that's when, then he goes into this slur of notes and everything. And it's just, if you think of, Scott Henderson always used to talk about it, right? The speech pattern of how, you talk a little, it's not just run-on sentences, but it's words, it's a paragraph, right? So you have words, you have periods, you have sentences, you have paragraphs, then you have all that, and it all comes together. You can't just have words without any of that punctuation. So this is immediate punctuation, right? And again, that importance of that bend is it's starting with a bend up. It's not going, It starts up at that bent whole note, and then it comes down really slow. And then once it's almost about to reach that end point, it goes back up. But you can't
Yeah.
push it up too quickly. You can't go, like, you can't just go up and arbitrarily. You're going back to that pitch, but it's kind of a fast up, but it's not the same pace as that slow bend down, but it's not
Right.
super fast. And this sounds silly, but that's all that makes the phrase work out the way it does. And so you
Yeah.
have, so you can hear it slowly going up and getting to that point where he cuts it out completely. And that's the magic of a single note. I mean, you have all these guys playing all these, notes, a million. I was telling Steve the other day, I saw, I'm not going to say what video it was, but it was a NAMM promotion thing for something. And it was a bunch of guitar players that are under their umbrella. And I was so disappointed because I think there were 6 or 7 guitar players, one of who I know plays really well. I've seen him before doing some cool stuff. Nothing amazing to the point where I'm like, I want to transcribe some of that stuff, but he's still a really good player. And all these
Yep.
people were good players. But man, it was so generic. It was just arpeggios, scales. It was a lot of tapping stuff. And then somebody came in and did like this kind of cool, everybody's doing the rock stuff. Somebody did this jazzy chord melody kind of thing. And I was like, this is cool. But then as I watched it, I was like, I mean, that's cool, but it's like, I told Steve, it's like level 2 of guitar school where you start learning jazz chord melodies. It's the basics. Like, it's not Joe Passy. It's not all these guys that are doing intricate bass movements with really cool chord voicings, Julian Lage or any of those guys. I mean, those guys are at the top of the game with that stuff. So when you see
Yep.
somebody else coming in and doing generic-y stuff, I mean, it's fine. Again, they're selling product is what they're doing or whatever. But it was just really kind of disappointing. And I'm like, Steve, is this where, I mean, think about all the YouTube stuff we watch. Is this where we're at? Just, if you're an amazing player, cool, and people are liking that, but they don't really care about those extra uniquenesses? I don't know. Is
Right.
uniquenesses a
Well,
word?
we're in a weird place with guitar, especially with what's going on with players faking it. So there's that.
Yeah.
You get the guys that are miming. And then I think when guys are playing, especially live, let's not kid ourselves. Playing live in front of people, it really exposes you. And I know that when I play live, when I was gigging regularly, I had a whole bunch of stuff in my brain that I knew that I was going to be able to pull out. But if you don't do that, and most of these people that were in that video all outperform their, they outkick their coverage, as they would say, when they were playing. And what I mean by that is that when you watch their videos, then they'll play much more interesting stuff because they have time to perfect it and work it out. But when you put a microphone and a camera on somebody live and they're in front of a group of people and it's like, okay, impress me. It's really hard.
I don't,
It's
again,
really,
that's where I don't, like, I agree with what you're saying, except, dude, every clinic I'd go to when I saw Richie Kotzen, Paul Gilbert's, every single guy when we were growing up and we were loving this guitar, dude, they were playing stuff that, and again, I know we were in a different mentality because we knew less. Our mind wasn't, our mind was more easily impressed because we didn't know a lot of this stuff and it was all new. But man, I'll go back and watch a lot of those clinics by all those guys, the GIT guys, the Joe Diorios, the Joe Pat. I mean, I know these are pros and everything, but Paul Gilbert wasn't a pro back then. He was a GIT guy. I mean, he was in Racer X. He was pro or whatever. But Richie Kotzen, I mean, he had his album out. He wasn't even in Poison at that point. So he
Right.
was, there's still, but all these shrapnel guys, dude, man, they were crushing it, doing amazing things that you're like, man, I've never heard that or seen that before. Or there was always a uniqueness to what they did. It wasn't just like everybody doing the same type of tapping. I don't know.
Right.
To me, that's what I was getting out of it. I was getting out of, man, even if in a generic way back in the day, those guys, the Paul Gilberts, the Richie Kochens, the Darren Householders, Greg Howes, you name any of them, there was always one or two things I was always like, man, I got to learn that. That's so cool.
Right.
And it wasn't just, I know this was just like 7 second clips, 10, 15 second clips and blah blah blah, but you would think they would pull some of the coolest stuff, and all of it was just very very and maybe that's on the fault of the person who put the video together or whatever.
Right.
But I do remember, and I told you I went to NAMM, I don't know, 8 years ago or so, right before COVID, and that was the first time I had seen it, the VGA booth and all these things. And no disrespect to the players, but it was all YouTube people. It was the Tom
Right.
Quayles. It was all these, and great, but not one of them had an album out. Not one of them was, they were all these shredder guys that did this stuff. And I just saw that was the advent of, I was like, man, everything's changing completely. But
Well,
hey, happy
that's
times.
true, and that's the way that the times are. But I also will double down and say that we are in a different time frame, and I think that the advent of the YouTube, Instagram, TikTok kind of guys, those guys aren't playing gigs the same way Gilbert, Kotzen, and Blues were playing gigs. They were gigging regularly,
Right.
and that makes you a better player. I mean, I could sit at home all day, which I do. I don't gig anymore. I may be more technically proficient, but I don't believe I'm a better guitar player. I have stuff worked out in my head, but there's something when you're playing live in front of people that really brings out your best. And if it doesn't, you're going to play safe. And I think watching this video, and again, the only reason we're not showing this video is just out of respect because they're all great players, but I don't want us, and I think David feels the same way. We don't want to, come across like we're diminishing anybody, but it really did kind of come across as very generic, uninspired playing. And that's not to say that probably if we were in the same situation, we wouldn't
Right,
be
yeah.
doing that.
But
But
again, it was the NAMM show. It
yes,
was the
yes.
major
Mhm.
guitar company putting out this promo video of look what we had at our booth. And I was so excited to watch this, and it wasn't just this video. I went and looked at other stuff, and uh the people playing there were doing cool fun stuff, but it was
Yeah.
very technical. It was very 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 technical. The guitar sounded great. I mean, I'm very intrigued by this guitar company. It's one that I kind of kept off the radar for a long time for my own reasons, but
Yeah.
anyway, very.
But I will say, before we kind of just wrap this up, I would much rather see this than kind of what's going on with the whole miming, faking. That stuff just
See, and
pisses
I
me
haven't
off.
seen a lot of that. That's funny. I've heard it. I've heard Andy Woods talk about it. I heard a few other people doing videos
Yeah.
on it, and I saw some of the samples of what they were talking about, and I understand. I understand what they're talking about with the one or two people, but I didn't realize it was this big pandemic. Like I just thought it was like maybe one or two stu nods doing, trying to, and of course they're making big bucks off of it and getting promo and all that and everything. That's the bullshit part about it is that
Yeah.
they're really manipulating the system. But in any industries, you're going to get that, and you try and ignore them, and hopefully they don't, change the tide too much to where these companies expect certain things, and it's all fake, and they get called out themselves, when people see them play in situations that they can't play in. Like I think Andy Timmons was saying he saw one of these people at a booth
Yeah.
somewhere playing and
Yep.
couldn't play half the shit he said he could. So
Yeah, I mean, I'll watch. There's, in this case, there's a guy on Ibanez, and I, for the longest time, was like, how are you hitting the strings that hard, and getting those sounds on these guitars? And I, even before it was considered to be kind of faked or mimicked, or I mean, the guy's clearly playing, but he's using a track. I just don't get that. It
yeah,
goes against everything that, if you're going to go up there and play, and let people see who you are. Let your personality come out. I mean, being technically proficient is great, but it doesn't mean shit if you're not. If it's just that, it's just
yeah.
cold. It's boring, And I hate that. I really do.
Yeah.
I don't
I mean,
like that.
everybody doesn't have to be the Andy Timmons where you can get up there and literally with no backing track play a full 8-minute song and it's
Yeah.
interesting throughout, right? I mean, he's playing some chord melody stuff, then he does some licks but there's a lot of guys like that. Again, there's a difference between, it goes with sports, it goes with everything. There's a difference between being good player in your town, being a good player, in the scope of YouTube or whatever, and having, understanding social media and doing that and being good enough for that. And then there's pros, and then there's the session guys, and then there's the touring guys, and the guys that sit in the room that, like, I remember I was watching something with all this Van Halen ToneX stuff that I've been going down. I was watching somebody talk about, why didn't they, hire somebody with the Joe Satriani stuff, setting up the whole, getting amps that sound like Eddie and everything. Well, you don't really need them, especially for that stuff, because it's either a Soldano or an EVH or some kind of amp, and there's not a lot going on with that, so you don't need any special amps. It's in the fingers,
Right.
and Joe, only having 8-9 months to learn this stuff or whatever, he got thrown under the bus at Howard Stern because he had to play the Mean Street intro, which he couldn't, and a few other things. Most people, dude, it took me forever I had if you look on Guitar Breakdown, years ago, we had one of my old teachers at AIM, Carl Culpepper, teach the intro to that tapping thing for the intro of Mean Street. And even with
Right.
that being taught, and it's actually, when you break it down, it's really 4 parts. It's a drum rudiment. And if you know the 3 sequential parts and put them together and you build it up to speed and you're just working it, you can figure it out. But man, it took me forever to really sit down and let my hands figure that out, because it's something you're not used to doing, especially if you don't have rhythmic drumming hands. So to throw, Joe Satriani under the bus for that, it was a little weird. But long story short, they were saying, well, why didn't they just hire some of these YouTube guys that can play exactly? Why didn't they hire Pete Thorne to do that tour? And you're like, wait a second, think about this. And I just blanked. But what's his name? Sammy Hagar and Joe Satriani are friends. They're in another band, right? So part of the thing of having a band is people that you're happy to hang out with. It's not just their technical ability. Joe will figure it out to a point where it's fun and it sounds good, but they want to be on the road together. They know they could sit on a tour bus and they can do all these things together.
Sure.
It's all that show of 2 hours or whatever is a small portion of the lifestyle of these touring guys.
Right.
And so yeah, to go out and get a YouTuber to do this, sure, you could find somebody but how do you know if they meld together and blah, blah, blah. Anyway.
No, the hang is everything. The hang is everything.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
So what do you got
Anyway.
planned for us?
All right, so let's since let's go into this Paul Gilbert thing real quick. Should I do the actually the first one I'm going to do? We'll do the picking one after. But the one thing I want to, so when I was dialing in these tones with the ToneX thing, and again we're going to get to that later. Anybody watching, thank you. Like and subscribe and give us some comments. Let us know you're out there. Let us know where you're from, what you're doing, and if the sound quality of this is all good. And yeah, ask us any questions you got, even if it's off topic. If it's something we talked about last week or something that's on your mind, let us know. But so the ToneX stuff, diving into that and getting some tones, there was one thing I started playing. I was back into with this Paul Gilbert thing, I was starting to play some of the typical Mr. Big tunes and Racer X tunes. And there was one that I totally forgot about, but I used to always play this whenever I plugged in a guitar, especially testing amp. And it's that whole, I think it's called The Whole World's Gonna Know. Right? Remember that whole beginning? What's Bump Ahead album? I think it is.
Yeah, it's a tricky beginning too. It's
very, very tricky. So there's one way it was transcribed in the actual transcription book, and then when you watch Paul play it, he plays it totally different, which happens a lot. The notes are right in the book, but the actual tab fingering is different than what he played. So let me just show you what that is. It's let me see. I got okay. So. And I think it's even a little faster. Maybe use this. Yep. chord. So really what that is, let me pull this camera down just a little bit more. It's just such a, first of all, it makes the amp scream, and you can, what's great about this, using this to test out some amps or whatever, you're getting the articulation of individual notes, right? And you're muting that. You're not just, it's not just all together. And it's going through a chord progression, and then it has all these screamy high notes, which all of that together is just super, super awesome. What it is, it's this, it's really, if you think of a D minor chord, D minor, with a ninth in there. So it's the root and the fifth to the minor third, and then that's to the second. Right, so you have, so it's the 5th fret on the D string, 7th fret on the, no, I'm sorry, on the A string, 5th fret on the A string, 7th on the D, then you do 5, 6 on the B string. So you're skipping strings. Right, and that's the very beginning. Now, that's how it was transcribed in the book, and you visually can see that D chord, right? But what Paul does, he stretches it out to the root, 5th, and the 9th, and then he slides up to the 3rd. So he's doing 5 on consecutive strings, A, D, and G string. He's doing 5, 7, 9. And that makes it a little easier for the muting, instead of muting that skip string. And also the tonality, if you think of it, you're getting these 2 thick strings, and then to skip to a thin string, it just sounds thinner. So this gets thick, a little thinner, but at least it doesn't jump to that real thin. It sounds silly, but I have a feeling this is why he does that. So, slides up with his pinky. Then he does, which is the C note, the 8th fret, on the low E string. You're skipping a string going to the D string, and you're doing 7, and then the G string, you're doing 9. So it's 8, skip a string, 7, 9. And what that is, it's a C major 6 chord, right? So you're basically playing the root note, which is the 6, then you're going a root note, which is the C, then you're going up to the 6th, the 6th interval, and then you're going to the major 7th interval. So you can think of it as, so you have, and then you slide down to that B flat note, right? Now this note, this chord is a little weirdly tricky. It's fun, but if you ever played like a G chord, and then you actually play a D chord with the G and the bass, right? So what that would really be, if you're thinking of it as a D chord, you have D, F sharp, and A, right? And the G would be your 4th, right? Or the 11th. So the bass would be, but this is, if you have the G and the bass, you usually think of that as the root note. So now you have the root, and then, so you have G to this A note, right? Yeah, to the A note, and that would be your 9th. So root, 9, and then you have this note, which is your 5th. So it's basically a 9th chord, right? Now when you're doing it up here, you have this B flat 9 chord, but you also have the open E string, which is going to be your sharp 5. I mean your flat 5. So, or you could think of it as your sharp 4, which is more of what this is doing, and it's Lydian, right? So you have, or you can think of this, and I'm giving you a million options or whatever, you could think of this really as a, because then it goes, it does this double stop on the 8th fret of the B and G string, B and E string. So you have, right? Now that, if you take those two notes and that's basically your major sixth and your ninth, right? So, but you could think of this sort of as a B flat chord, root and fifth, and then a C major chord. Gives you a nice. Now he's using that sharp 5, or sharp 4. That's kind of a cool chord. So you have 6, 7, 5, 5, 5. That's a pretty chord. You could also have 6, 8, 5, 5, 5. And now you can look at that as double a triad over. You have the B flat, and then you have the C. B flat and the C. So a lot of times they have chords that are chord over bass note, all that kind of stuff. Triad over bass note. That's one thing Don Mock used to teach all the time at GIT. He had a thing called in the Book of 10, which was a big GIT book.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Oh, that was amazing, dude. If anybody could find that, you can still find it sometimes. But it was basically a book at GIT. Back in the day, Musicians Institute, they had 10 guitar players. It was like Joe Pass, Joe Diorio, Don Mock, Howard Roberts. Van Halen was the only real outside MI guy that was in there. There was Larry Carlton, Robin Ford, I forget. So there were 10 total guitar players, and they did a chapter each, and each one showed some unique stuff. In fact, the Van Halen thing's really cool because there's some, but it's no tab, it's all standard notation, and it's really just words. And the Joe Diorio stuff was amazing. All of it was amazing. Joe Diorio, but the Van Halen stuff was cool because he was showing some licks at the time that were outside the scope. They were in Van Halen, but they weren't in some Van Halen tunes. And then the Don Mock one was really cool because he showed triads over bass notes. And he did this whole etude at the end, or whatever it was called, the Ballad of Triangles. And if you look at our channel, Guitar Breakdown, I actually did the whole thing. And I think I haven't played this in so long, so excuse me. And it's a clean tone kind of thing. I don't know, something like that. But it had all these really unique chords, which are a bass note over triads, and it went through every single major triad with a different bass note over it, but he made a tune out of it, which was really interesting. And when we did that, I did the lesson. If anybody's interested, I'll put the link down below. Just let me know you want to know where that link is. But Don actually went in. Somebody had told him, I guess, about it, and he wrote, "Great job with this," or whatever. And I was like, oh my God, is this the real Don Mock? Because he wasn't really on social media. He had passed away a couple years ago. In fact, my Steve Freeman, who was the owner of my school, Atlanta Institute of Music at the time, he texted me and invited me to that. I wish I had gone because everybody was there. All the GIT legends and everything, and just to be in that, it was a memorial more than it was it was like, let's celebrate his life, and people sat around playing, and I think some of it's online. But anyway, so that was a really cool thing, that triad over bass thing. So if anybody's interested in getting into something that they're not really that familiar with, check out that kind of stuff.
And you know where like a lot of Paul Gilbert got the whole bass over triad was from Todd Rundgren. Do you ever listen to Todd Rundgren at all?
No, not at all.
Oh my God. It's just like his songs are just, you have to listen to. I'll send you some Todd Rundgren to listen to. Yeah, because he really stole a lot of stuff from Todd. I don't think he would even deny. Oh my God, yeah. Like there's one song here. Let me just lower this just so you could. But he does like it's an A major 9, but he's like the A's in the bass, so it's. Then it goes to like an E with an F sharp. Then it's and it basically is the same as Green Tinted '60s Mind. If you listen
okay,
to,
right.
but that's a Todd Rundgren song, something anything, and it wouldn't have made any difference. It's the same, but if you listen to it, it's literally the same chord progression. It's
Interesting,
so
right?
yeah, yeah. Todd Rundgren is a huge, like Paul Gilbert is definitely very much influenced by Todd Rundgren. So, and because of Paul being interested in Todd Rundgren, I went down the Todd Rundgren rabbit hole.
Okay.
So,
Interesting.
yeah, so I'll send you some tracks, and you'll be like, "Oh my God, he literally lifted this." Yeah, and
that's funny. I like when you hear those things.
Yeah, and I've actually, Paul's social media is impossible to actually reach him, but I have messaged Paul and on social media and be like, "You and Todd Rundgren should do a record together. It would be insane."
That's
So,
funny. Well, we might be able to get a hold of him soon between some of the people we know. We'll probably be able to get him on. I really think so. It's funny because I've heard a bunch of those things, but I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, that whole. I won't even. I don't know how that goes or whatever. What a great intro to it too. And I remember when that came out on MTV. I was like, wait, what is this? He's got a new album out, and that's what they're starting with. So good.
But that's literally a Todd Rundgren song. I mean, and yeah, you will trip out. But he that whole triad over bass is like Todd Rundgren chords.
Yep.
Like
well, and the cool thing too is it's not just a chordal thing. Like it's literally, again, you could see in this thing that we're doing here. It's that's the basis of understanding what's going on. It's not just chords being played. It's that movement. But there's chords under there, and then there's a melody on top. So it's right? It's going back and forth between those notes. But the way he plays it in the tab book, like I said, is instead of doing that stretch, he's doing. And here you could see the real. So the second part of that is you have this. Then you go down to that chord. Then he does. And here you could see that walk down. It's going to the 10th fret on the A string to the 8th fret on the D string, skipping to the 10th to the 11 on the B string. And he goes 10, 11, then back down 10, G string, 12 on the D string. And if you see that shape, that's just your B flat major triad, right? And even there is your root. Basically, it looks like your root note of G to your root third of G to the B. So you have. I keep forgetting. My glasses are so weird because I can't see. I got to get those big Magoo glasses because every time I look down, I'm looking past where my glasses are and I can't see the fretboard. Then he just slides into the 11th fret of the D string, 10th of the G, Then he takes that same shape and goes up to, and he's at this 18th fret of the G string, 19th of the D string, and then he just takes that 20th fret and bends up a whole step. Then he repeats it, but on the last time he does that, he goes, he hangs on it, and he may even have a drop D there where he just gets that D chord ringing out or whatever. But the cool part about that is, so when he does this, right, in the tab book, they have it as, and you could see going down that B major triad on the high E strings, 6, 6, 8, 7s. And then when you do the other part, you're doing, right? You're doing 6, 6, 14, 14 on the B and G string. And then they're bending the 15th fret up a whole step instead of that 20th fret or whatever. So if when I learned it in the tab book, that was a harder way to play it for me than to do it this other way. And then when you watch Paul do it live, you could see he's actually doing it with, you can see he's stretching out his fingers here. Then he's also going all the way up to this 19th, 20th fret and doing that. But dude, that thing sings, and that really, when I go test out amps, I know it sounds silly or whatever, but there are a few things that I always play that, man,
that's one of yours?
Because again, you're getting that muting, right? You're getting chord separation, so you can hear if the amp is able to separate these chords. The tone of just a single bend, so you have the difference between that and, so even the second, like the first time I might play it all muted, and I'll do it slow, too, to hear those notes. And then you let those chords ring out to hear if you can hear the separation. Then you hear that if you have any reverb on, you want to hear that, the slap back or whatever, then... and plus you're getting some low notes all the way to high.
Yeah.
And you hear if that one note can actually hold its own, right? And then I'll do it open instead of muted. I'll do... And still, you want some separation in that, even though it's all bleeding together. So to me, it's just a fun thing. And of course, it's one of those things that on its own, it's kind of a musical piece. So that, you're at Guitar Center, some of the kids will turn their heads and they'll go, "What is that? That's kind of cool."
Yeah.
Instead of all these fast licks, right?
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of which, we have our friend Ryan, who's in the chat, who is an instructor over at Guitar Center, and he is a fantastic guitar player, classical guitar. Like I always, every time he goes in there, I always like nerd off of him. So welcome, Ryan, and Brian is here. So thank you guys for joining us tonight. We're about 45 minutes in, I think, at this point. So. I don't know if you guys started with us in the last, hour, but we covered some Doug Rappaport. We talked a little bit about NAMM, and then we kind of went into Paul Gilbert, and we definitely are having some fun here, and it's Friday night, and obviously we're just inviting everybody to kind of hang with us and like and subscribe to the channel, share it on social media. I know I hate it saying it, I know you hate hearing it, but please helps us out, helps us grow the channel, and definitely want to see more activity and more fun people kind of joining us and making this a regular hang with everybody kind of joining us every Friday night. So
I like that you're doing the spiel now. I like it. Now I think that's the first time. I think that's the first time Steve said the spiel. It's always me trying to, I'm like, here I go again.
I know. Well, I figured there were some things last week, that were things that I was like, I can improve on certain things. And so, that was one of them. The other thing was, when you're teaching, I'm not going to play guitar anymore. I'm going to hold
Oh
my
yeah,
guitar.
that got
Yeah,
distracting. That was I
yeah,
was having because in my
yeah,
in my cans here, I'm just hearing clickety
yeah,
clickety click.
yeah. So
And
I'm not
we
going to
talked
do
about it
that.
last week. That it's funny because
Yeah,
if people didn't experience this, if you're never in a big room, and that's what MI is, all these music schools, Berkeley and Atlanta Student Music, like you're in this room with 10 to 20 other kids with guitars in their hands, and there's an
right.
instructor there's a teacher, and he's not really, I mean, he's an instructor, but he's your friend at this point. I mean, you've been going to
Right.
his classes every week. I mean, he's just a teacher that, no matter how cool it was sitting in with these Paul Gilberts and all, I mean, at that they're a little bit of a different level,
Yeah.
but still they're just dudes, and they're hanging out having fun with you. But as they're sitting there teaching, you're just hearing all these guys. Not only are they especially at the beginning of the classes, I don't know if you experience this, but not only are they just playing along, like if he's showing an arpeggio, they're all trying to figure it out and they're doing it at different times. Like he's starting the arpeggio, he's starting it at a
Yes.
different time, and now everything's getting mushy. But then there's some dude in the corner, five other dudes that are just really, they're like, I got that, I know that arpeggio, so they're not even practicing that. So they're just fiddling on licks they learned last night from
Yes.
like
Yeah.
George Lynch or something. So now you have
Right.
all these plethora of notes going on, and nobody's
Yeah.
plugged in, but you're just hearing the
Yeah. It's tough. It's tough. But
yeah.
and watching it back, I was like, oh man, I suck. Like there was a couple of things where I said I sucked, and that was two things. And then there was a third thing where I'm just like, all right, I have to not say, and obviously so much. So those were the three
Oh, that's
things that
funny.
I zeroed in this week, and I'm laser
Oh,
focused
dude,
this week. I
when
locked
I
in.
first started this YouTube channel, it would literally be, and I'm a talkative dude, so whatever. I don't, I'm cool with it, and I hope everybody else is. But if not, turn us off. But man, I used to the first 7 to 9 minutes of the instruction video, and the funniest part about that. So it was all talk. It was me building up, saying, "Hey, today we're going to talk about this, blah blah blah," and this guy is this to me. This is where I discovered him. And I'm telling a story that's only interesting to me, maybe somebody else, but.
Yeah,
So before I even get, and every comment, every first 10
I know.
comments were, dude, you talk so much, and then they put in the link, go to 8 minutes and 4 seconds, that's where the lesson starts, so skip over this guy's bullshit. But the funniest part too is that as I'm doing all this stuff, back in the day, YouTube was you can only upload 10-minute I mean, I did this, I wasn't at the advent like with the Marty Schwartzes and Brett Papas and all those guys. I was like, I think it was 2006 when YouTube started, and I think they started around 2006-7. They started picking up around 2011 or something. I started somewhere in the 2000, maybe 11 or 12 area, and I just started, and it took me about a year to really get into it.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But the funny part is, back then you can only put 10-minute videos up, and then it would cut you off. So if I had a thing that was 18 minutes long, a lesson, and really I'm talking for the first 9 minutes, the first video was only like 1 minute of lesson, and then you'd have to go to the
Oh.
next one, and I'd have these like 4-part lessons, and dude, it was, I'm embarrassed by it actually.
Well, I think there's also an element of being maybe nervous, also telling a story. And what's entertaining to you may not be entertaining to everybody else. Now, conversely, I see videos where people don't even want to see people play guitar anymore. They just want to hear them talk.
Right.
So I feel like that his whole, been flipped.
Yeah.
So just be you,
Yep.
just do you,
Well,
dude.
dude, and I really appreciate it. So if nobody knows that, at the rewatch of this, if you're interested in learning the stuff, like maybe right now you're just here for the chat and the hang, and you just want to, if anybody here wants to comment, like I said, in the comment section chat, and we'll answer questions or go off of what you guys are thinking. But if you want to rewatch this, Steve, during the week, he'll go down and he'll actually put the time codes in a comment where everything is bookmarked. Like here, the lesson starts here. We start talking about this here. We talk about the so, which is really helpful if you just want to get to the lesson part, and then you click here. Because I do have this set to do auto chapters, and it doesn't seem to do that. So I think I have to go back in and actually use your time codes, set
Yeah.
chapters. I mean, again, all these things we
You-
try and do as much as we can. It's a lot of work.
Yeah. Well, what happens is that it scrubs up to 36 minutes. YouTube scrubs 36 minutes, and then it just says, you know what, forget it, we're done.
Really?
Yeah. So what I do, and I'm not going to bore everybody, but basically what I do is I have to take the chat of our chat, not the, not
All right.
Ryan's, kissing our butt over there in the chats there. I'm talking about our actual text, and then I import it into Chat GPT, and I have to do it in like also in 3 or 4 sections because they only have an X amount of words that you can import. So then I have to save one, and then I have to bring it back, and then I chapterize it. It takes me about a good 15 minutes to do it.
Yeah.
And fortunately, YouTube doesn't have that tech part thing
Right.
down. Which you
Right.
would think they're Google, they should have that down. I mean, I'm surprised, but
Well, there's a check mark in doing this live thing that says auto chapter, and you would think it would do it for the whole thing. It doesn't do it
yeah,
for any on us. I mean, it doesn't even
no,
do a first chapter. So I
nope.
don't know what's going on there. But anyway,
Well,
let's chat a little about ToneX. So I went down this rabbit hole of I've been for the last couple of weeks. I've been talking about getting that Van Halen pack. I'm a huge Van Halen fan, not for the fact that I want to play like him. I learn a lot of Van Halen tunes. There's so much gold in those things. If you guys have not, if you're into Van Halen and you've only learned, like the eruption or some of the famous heads to certain songs or whatever, that's great. But I would advise diving a little deeper into it and really just take one tune that you want to learn and learn the whole thing. Go on YouTube, find the animated tab versions, and a lot of times those things are tuned down a half step. You could bring them. We've talked about before. You can download it through 4K downloader. Then you could throw it into the app Transcribe. You can offset the pitch by half step, so you don't have to tune your guitars down. But then you can slow it down too, and you can play it really methodically slow and have it repeat measure over measure or whatever, however you want to tag it out. If you got 6 notes and you're having trouble with those 6 notes, if you just have, 4 bars of music that you're just trying to recycle and really get under your fingers and it has one little lick in it. The Van Halen stuff is amazing because there's so many little intricacies to it. And even the simplest songs, the cheesier, more pop tunes that Dave would do or whatever, Eddie always threw in a cool lick here or there. Or his rhythm was just really tightly. I saw somebody talking about how you always hear him pushing the beat. I think it was Dweezil talking about it, maybe. I think it might have been Dweezil talking about it. And he was talking about how he pushes ahead of the beat. And realistically, he's not. It's just the way the drums and his guitar feel with it. He said he is really super on the beat with everything, which is surprising me with that swing and everything. Like you feel like you're being pushed and pulled. But these are the things that you can learn in not just learning the head of the tune, but those little tiny licks that are in there. Anyway, so when I play it, like this ToneX package, the Van Halen Brown sound that came out, that everybody's using, sounds amazing. Everybody makes it sound so good. I downloaded the demo for they only give you 30 minutes, which is kind of BS, and everybody complains about it. But I did see somebody from IK Media address that at one point, and they say 30 minutes should be enough. And it's like, dude, you are terrible, customer
yeah,
support, because if you're getting enough complaints about it and people are saying we need, give me a day. Because maybe I download it and all of a sudden my kid cries in the background and I have to go away, and now I come back and the 30 minutes is up already, right?
yeah,
So not only that, but when you get in there, the problem I was having problem with my guitar interface having some echo going on, and I could not figure it out. And by the time I figured it out, I had like 4 or 5 minutes left to hear the sounds. And there's 50 amp versions, and half of them are the same. They're just EQ'd differently. And it's like, man, so I just gave up. Then eventually I kept seeing more videos and I was like, I got to download this. So I finally did. I just threw the $50 in and I downloaded the pack. Threw it onto my my pedal, and again, like guys like Cameron Cooper get it to sound they seemingly so awesome just plugging in for the first time, strumming the chord, adjusting nothing, and it sounds awesome. And they say,
Yeah.
"My God, look at that! Just one thing," and they start playing riffs, and it sounds awesome. Man, not one of the sounds to me sounded awesome out of the box. I've come, long story short, to the conclusion that there are so many factors to this ToneX that we think it's just a pedal you plug and play. Dude, it depends what pickups you have, the output of those pickups, how you have your trim set on your pedal, whether it's higher or lower, the what you're monitoring through. I was playing through my headphones with most of this, so
Yeah.
I have these studio monitors, these I think they're Sony studio monitors, which are decent headphones, and they're very flat, so the frequency you're getting is a little more flat. Whereas I was really using these Bose, which Bose is supposed to be awesome, right? I had these newer Bose headphones, but they were DJ headphones, which when I asked ChatGTP, they said, oh yeah, no, they cut off a lot of high frequencies. They manipulate the bass so they sound really good in your ears and do all this kind of stuff. So you're not getting the true tone. Now I've started thinking, wait a second. Why am I trying to get this to sound so amazing through little tiny speakers on my ears, right? And so think about what an amp is. If you play through a 110 cabinet or your 210 cabinet and you play through a huge 412 cabinet, you're going to get a different tone out of everything.
Sure.
My mental thought of this, and I think IK Multimedia has to do a better job at letting people understand, like here I go with the ADD shit, right? The H90 pedal that they do, Eventide does a great thing where on YouTube, on their site, they have a beginner's guide of that pedal. And it's literally from the moment you plug in to how the output interfaces work to how all the tones work. They go through it. They don't just cycle through the tones. Where multimedia, IK Multimedia, they cycle, here's tone 1, here's tone 2, and they don't really talk about when you plug in, you're going to get this message to sync your video or audio card. And they don't go through any of that. Now you have all these settings. Do I use ASIO? Do I use this? I'm having a problem plugging in, and I have the ASIO, which everybody says to use. I have a $5,000 graphic, like 3D computer here with a good audio card. And my ASIO card doesn't give me any options for input or output. It's just blank when I put the time. Yeah. So I'm like, why aren't they telling you how to do this stuff? I don't understand. So long story short, I get into this, but then I'm like, these guys are getting great tones out of it. And I know the guy that made this pack he did a great job of doing this. He knows his shit, right? Is Jim Brobauer or something? I don't know what his name is. But so I'm like, I'm going to spend a little time with this. I dove in and I started EQing it. And I started figuring out, okay, first of all, I'm not using these headphones. I'm going to go through my studio monitors. And once I did that, the tone changed completely. And I was like, oh, okay. I was getting every nuance of all the hair and the way these things were done. And he even says when he did this, he left the noise in and the hiss. So when you turn these amps up, the Marshalls that he did the profiles on, it's got a lot of noise, man. These things are loud and they're hissy and they're old and they're noisy. But that's part of the charm of the amp. So he left that in there. Now, for me, that is annoying. Now, I tried to put a noise gate on there. The problem is the noise gate, everybody even says on this ToneX, is awful. It's just not good. I mean, you get it to a point where the noise is out, but if you play a note and you hold it, it's going to cut it out.
It's just, it's not.
Oh, it's so not dynamic. It's not, So I'm like, I'm not going to use a noise gate here. So I figured out the way to do this is, first of all, and then after watching 5 or 6 more videos after I figured this out, I saw this guy, Jim, talk about, these have a certain gain on it, and you may want to lower that gain. So even though it's at 5, at 12 o'clock, you may want to lower it to 3, which sounds weird, put, the gain at 3 for these amps. But you do that, and you pull off a lot of that hiss and noise, and you get a cleaner tone, even though there is gain there. So even between 3 and 5, that's a big gap of tone when you're doing it through. So anyway, in the ears, I was hearing all that hiss. I could not get rid of that. It was noisy. It was high pitchy. Once I got to the monitors, that stuff fell off a little bit. Then I did what you do, Steve, which is plug into the direct in, or what is it called? Amp in plug.
Yeah, yeah. So, and Ryan actually asked about how I do it with the ToneX. So, how I use the ToneX is um, I use it as an interface, the box itself. I use the app through the computer that basically goes into the ToneX box, and then I go into the Katana power amp essentially as a poor man's FRFR, which works great. I mean, I love it for what it does. If I really want to get more of a flat response, I should put it through the acoustic section because that's really what the acoustic section is for, is completely flat response. But for what I do, I've had no problems. I mean, again, I'm not really playing the Van Halen stuff is mostly going to be the highest gain tone stuff, like for me and probably for you. I mean, we're not
Right.
going down the world of, heavy high gain, Fortin type of amps and Mesa Barbas. Most of the stuff that we're going to
Which,
do is
by the
going
way,
to end
those
up.
Mesa Barbers, I'm dying to play through. Every video I see on those sounds so good.
I played through one. They were at the amp show one year, or they had one at the amp show, and I was like, wow, these are really good, man. Those were definitely one of the up and coming amps at the amp show that
Yep.
when they had them here.
So what I'm looking on my phone here, I'm not ignoring you, but they said you could plug into the effects return of the amp to get it to bypass the front panel, and you're actually using
Mhm.
whatever. But they said the better option, and I don't know if all of them, I think the artist mode is, which I have, they also have a power amp in right next to the line out. And that's where I plug mine. So I did what Steve did, but I plugged in through that power amp in, and that cuts everything off of the amp, and it just uses the speaker. And the speaker in the artist mode has the Katana special speaker or whatever, which is really, really good. And then on the front panel, basically, you only have the presence control, which really doesn't do much. It adds a little bit more if you want, and the volume. And those are the only two buttons that actually work on there. You might be able to use some of the effects. I don't know if that's the case, but it's just a speaker and it's bypassing. And like I said, using that, I love the studio monitors. They're very, very flat. I got these, I don't even know what they were. They're such old speakers, but they were really good monitors back in the day. Event or something. I mean, they weren't great, but they were good enough.
Right.
True tone. But plugging into this Katana, and it's facing this way where I sit on a couch over there when I play. So I have the back of the amp. So even though I dial in the tones here and I'm hearing it through there and it's coming to me, and I get it to sound really good. When I go over there, I'm hearing the back of the speaker, so it almost sounds like somebody put a carpet over the amp a little bit. So I do, on the pedal, I just take the treble and raise it quite a bit, and I raise the volume on the pedal. You have those controls. Maybe I'll hold that button and get to the presence, and I'll upload, I'll raise that a little bit. But man, these tones sound so good now. It's that thick hollow. Like I
Yeah.
don't know how to explain it. It's this the amp is just got bass, but it's not bass muddy. It's just the hollow, like you're in this box of an amp, and the articulation is there. But then you also have that Van Halen. The tones I dialed in, if I play anything other than Van Halen, it doesn't sound Van Halen. Like it's a really
Right.
just good tone by itself. Whereas all these other people are dialing in these tones that are so Van Halen that even when you solo and fidget around, it's just like, well, that's the Van Halen tone. So, and that's not what I was going for. I was just going for a really great Marshall sound.
Good.
That's,
Right. Yeah.
yep.
Exactly.
And that's what these things are. But so what I'm learning about the ToneX pedal is you really have to, it depends what your output is. So here I'm trying, I mean, I could show you guys, if you guys are interested, let me know. I could go through some of my profiles on this. But the problem is I plugged into this for the first time after doing all this back into this. But now what I'm doing is I'm plugging in through the Yamaha mixing board, my ToneX pedal into the Yamaha mixing board, into this OBS and getting this thing. And the first sound that I've been playing for 3 days straight, it didn't sound awful. It didn't sound well. Here, I'll play it. And Steve, tell me, maybe from again. Here's the thing. Maybe it's coming from my headphones, and I'm just hearing a shitty tone. But
Right.
here's my Soldano sound, right? Right? Decent, right? Now I'll go to the one Van Halen tone I was using. Can't remember which one it is now. Is it this one? Might be this one. I mean, it sounds okay. It sounds thinner and, different or whatever from
Yeah.
what. But when I have this tone, especially in the more boxier sounding amp or whatever, especially when to me, I'm hearing very thin and not that great sounding in these ears. But when I go back to the Soldano, which seems to kind of work, that setting I have, if I do sounds a little better, a little thicker, but even this doesn't sound as good as it does through the. So I don't know how I'm going to get this tone to translate into this kind of
Right.
thing. It's going to be an experiment, but I will tell you, long story short, when I got the ToneX pedal, I was super psyched. Steve was telling me all about it. I started messing around with it. I was having troubles. Then finally I dialed into that one Soldano's tone and I was like, oh, that's cool. And I was using the headphones, super psyched for a little while, but then I was getting a little off. Then when I went through these monitors and that Katana, oh my God, I'm back in on it again. Now this disappointed me a little today, but I know where it definitely is. I just have to figure
Yeah.
out how to translate that to all of this. And I know it's possible because I hear everybody else doing it. And I know they're not doing a lot of post work. So that's all I
Yeah.
got.
No, look, it's a great piece of kit. For $350 for the big Tone X, I mean, you can't go wrong. It's just a great piece of kit. Yeah, we've been down the whole rabbit hole of trying out now the Katana. I'm sorry, the Kemper rather. And so for me, I have the Velton GP50 on the way, and then the next one after that I want to try is the I'm maybe do the Nano Cortex. But again, I'm so happy with the Tonex. And somebody will be like, "Well, Steve, what do you get? What are you trying to do here?" And for me, it's just I like having a lot of different tonal options. I mean, Dave and I were speaking earlier this week, and we were talking about amps. And I love amps. I have one amp that I can play in my house because I live in a townhouse. I have a neighbor right here to this wall to where I'm pointing at. 3 feet away is another owner, and then underneath me is another owner. So I have to be respectful. We're not in an apartment. We're homeowners. So I have to be cognizant that I can't be making too much noise. The Katana, it works great because I can have it at a whisper volume. But I do have a great Fender had done Fender did the 68 series silver face amps a couple of years ago, and they did the Vibro Champ with the
Okay.
10-inch speaker, and it's an 8-inch or 8-watt speaker, and that thing is so killer. Sounds great, like just by itself. But if I want to put pedals in front of it, I mean, Warren D. Martini and George Lynch use that. They're super champs. I'm not comparing it, but I mean, you can get killer tones with these amps
Right.
on these types of little amps, and so I'll plug a pedal into it, and it just gets really, really,
Yeah.
it
It's
gets
just
gaining.
fun to have
But
these options, man. Like even when we
yes,
were talking, I mean, I have a Soldano Slow 30 sitting here, and one of my favorite amps of all time, and I'm just sitting there, and it's sitting on top of an EVH 5150 Stealth 50 watt, and I'm about to possibly offload the 5150 because it's literally a Soldano. It's got a little
right,
more gain and it's got a little more fizz on the notes than and which I usually dial out with an EQ. I do that whole. I've got a 10 band EQ, MXR 10 band, and I throw that through the effects loop and I dial down, the high end or whatever. Anyway, but I don't need it because I have the Soldano and I'm not going out really gigging a lot or whatever, so I don't need the extra headroom. That was part of the reason why I got it. I had the 30 watt Soldano, which is plenty loud for a lot of small places, but if I want extra headroom clean, the 50 watt is a little better and it gets pretty much the same tone. But anyway, after doing this ToneX thing for a couple months now, I'm like, man, I just, especially playing the Soldano patch, I'm like, I got to plug into my Soldano. And I know immediately once I plug into it, I'm going to, this is amazing. Funny
Yeah.
enough, speaking of that, the Katana Go, that little tiny plug that you plug into your guitar or whatever, I loved that for about 8 months. Man, I love that thing. It was great to travel with. It's got some good tones. It has some good dynamic range with it for what it is. I haven't played that thing because I brought this ToneX thing home for Christmas. And I
Right.
had that for 3 months or 2 months before. So I've been using nothing but the ToneX really for the last so many months. Um, so then I was like, I saw my little Katana Go and oh man, I got to charge that thing. You got to keep that battery going or whatever. I'm like, you know what? Let me plug it in. And I plug it in, sat on my couch for an hour. I was like, this is amazing because it's
Yeah.
dialed in for headphones more than the ToneX is, right? So the tones
Yeah.
I was getting here, it was understanding. Most people are going to be listening through headphones on this thing, and it's got that dialed in. And dude, it's when I got this ToneX, I was like, I'll get rid of the Go because this has headphones in and it's a small enough thing where it doesn't take up a lot of. I'll never get rid of that Go, dude. That thing is so good.
Hey, look, and this is me, and I don't know if you guys, that are watching are the same way, but I like having different gear in case I get bored. I mean, like if I'm using the Tonex, I occasionally will go back to the Pod Go, or I'll go over. I have a new X MG50, and I'll plug that into the THR, or the THX rather, the Yamaha. And so, I have basically what I like to say is that with amps and gear, uh, it's not about just collecting stuff, but really it's about just being and keeping inspired. I'm not one to just collect stuff to collect stuff. I want to use it, but I don't want to necessarily have it where I'm playing everything at the same time. I'm just alternating things out. It's the same thing, like this guitar that I'm playing right now, this American Strat, I'll probably next week go back to my red Strat, or I'll go to my Charvel. It's guitars, the same thing. It's like you just kind of change things, and just to stay inspired and keep
Yep.
that, keep it going. So for me, it's never been about just collecting stuff and having gear to have gear. It's just the gear for me is just the driver to kind of keep inspired and keep motivated.
Yep. Yeah. So hey, let's get into this last lick that I was going to show. It's another little Paul Gilbert thing. It's a cool little picking thing. I was having trouble with when I first started doing the. Yeah, it's a different pattern for sure. Let me get this down a little bit. Let me go to hey, and thanks again, guys, for watching. If you guys like this, like, subscribe, all that stuff. Hey, comment. Let us know what you guys are thinking. If you got any questions, let us know. If there's any sound quality problems, let us know that too. So I'm going to show. This is a guy I had seen. Excuse me. It just kind of popped up on Facebook somewhere or whatever. One of those little pop-up things. And he was playing this lick, and it was a Paul Gilbert. Or I mean, it was obviously a Paul Gilbert thing. And this guy plays it really, really well. And I was just like, man, I got to learn that. It's just a cool little picking pattern. And it's like Paul's little etudes, right? He's doing these arpeggio sequences that just work melodically. Sometimes they're classical based. And this was one of those things where it's just really cool. And I couldn't figure out where it was. If you want to watch at the beginning of the podcast, I talk about it with Steve. I just didn't know what it was from. It seems like it's from Get Out of My Yard, Paul Gilbert thing. But when I looked at that, it's more sweep picking stuff. So it seems like this is the same progression, just doing it on one string. When I watch Paul Gilbert do it, I don't ever see him do it like this kid's doing it. So maybe this kid just worked out that sweep sequence in a certain way. And that tapping part that he does, he has somebody hold the guitar here while Paul's doing a tapping thing or something here into open strings. So he's got 4 notes or so going. So maybe that's part of what this is. I didn't research it that much. But anyway, so it's so good. And let me turn on my desktop audio so you guys can actually hear it. There you go. Good God, that kid nailed it. And so do I even have his uh Musim Ujan, Musim. Last name is Ujan. Yeah, it's and then Dispanzian Bar guy. I don't know where he's from. India maybe or something.
Probably Indonesian.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that.
Dude, killer. This kid nailed that. Like his picking
Yeah.
technique, his articulation, the tone, he didn't go for too much gain.
No.
Just everything about it was clean. Clean.
Yeah.
Didn't miss a
Yeah.
single note. And so I'm
He's
trying
probably
to
like he's kid's probably like 12. You
Yeah.
know what I
No, no,
mean?
no, no, no. Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. His mom's going to call him, turn that down. So I'm
Yeah.
trying to figure this out. And so it's a real simple kind of progression, right? So it's basically this E minor E minor arpeggio. So it's on the this is all on the D and G string. So you have the 14th fret on the D string, 12th and 16th fret on the G string. And there's your E minor arpeggio. But it starts with the 16th fret. So it's going down those three. So and then it kind of pivots off 16, 12, 16 or 16, 12, 14 on the next string. Then it pivots off those two notes, 16, 14. So then it goes back up to that 12th fret. So if you think of it as 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right? 16, 12, 14, 16, 14, 12. And that pattern stays. Now, if you start with a downstroke on that, you have down, up, then you're ready for the inside-outside picking of the downstroke on the next string. So down, up, down, up, down, up. And you're ready for the sequence again. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. And now you're getting that outside-inside, which tends to be a little easier with picking, right? Once you get caught on this inside picking, and what I mean by that is like if you're picking like on the E string, low E string, and the high E string and low E string. If you were to pick up on the high E string and down on the low E string, that would be outside picking. You're picking outside and outside. If you get caught inside where you were doing downstroke on the high E string and upstroke on the low E string, that's inside. And you could see where that gets trouble because now you're putting a pick in between strings as opposed to outside. Now, a lot of times when people do three note or picking things on the B string and the E string, it's a lot easier. It gets a little complicated because you're picking in between these two strings, the G and the B string, doing your down and up strokes. So you're trying not to hit any of those strings. Either if you're on the B string, you're trying not to hit the E string or the G string. Right? You're trying to stay really close to just that B string. But when you get to that E note, like if you're doing a Paul Gilbert, right? Now you have the freedom of when you get to that E string, you can put the pick anywhere you want down here because there's no strings that you're having to get in between. So you can make a wide sweep But then when you get back to this B string, you got to be very careful because you're in between strings. So that's where the outside-inside picking becomes something that you might want to think about. You can do it any way you want. And a lot of people practice both ways so that they're comfortable both ways. So anyway, the sequence is that throughout the whole thing. It's down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Then he just moves his pinky up a half step from that 16th fret to the 17th fret, and he does the same pattern. Then he goes back to the first one. Then he moves down to this pattern, which is just your D major arpeggio. So you have your D note on the D string, 12th fret. Then you're going, so you're 12. Then on the G string, it's 11, 14. Right, so the first one is this E major, or E minor. Then this, which I haven't even sussed out. That might be, that's basically E minor. No, that would actually be a C major chord starting on the 3rd. So now you're starting on the 3rd and you have your 3rd, 5th, and root. Right? So you have E minor to C major to E minor to D major. Then you go down to C major, and that's basically the on the D string 10th fret. G string is 9 and 12. Then you go 10th fret, 9 and 10 on this. So you have and I just got caught inside out.
That's cool.
Then the last one goes to a B major. So it's on this string D, string 9th fret. Then on the G string, it's going to be 8 and 11. Then you can go down a diminished kind of scale. Then you get back up to the high string. And now you're doing that a D minor arpeggio. Same kind of pattern. What was I going to do with that? I don't know what I was doing there. Whatever. Anyway, so that's the sequence. I forget what I did. Because actually, at that point, I was thinking, wait, that Rick Graham thing. I still have to go over that real quick, which is a really quick thing. There's the ADD going in the middle of a Paul Gilbert lick. I go, wait a minute.
There you go. There's another short for the week. These guys teaching that he's going to Rick Graham.
I'm like, wait, no, Rick Graham did this. So anyway, so if anybody liked that, whatever, let me know if you have any questions about it. It's just a cool sequence and it gets that right hand working. Just take it really slow and just do that. And practice with, if you notice what that kid did, I'll let you hear him do it one more time because he crushes it. But try and do where you're really muting.
Yeah.
That gets
open it
up.
Yeah.
And you know what? I think I had the desktop audio on this whole time, so if there is an echo, I apologize for that. Put a little more gain on it. I don't know, whatever. Super, super fun. Gets that right hand going, and it's a real melodic thing. And it's one of those things you can just do while you're watching TV. You're just getting that right hand to work. But
Yeah.
Steve, you have a lot of. I mean, you did a lot of this Paul Gilbert stuff back in the day. I mean, you were definitely a 3 note per stringy kind of.
Yeah. Well, that
Your
was
picking
also
dialed
that
in.
was yeah, that was also because of my teacher too. I mean, I was into Paul Gilbert, but then I had Stephen Ross, who, if you've listened to any of his Shrapnel record, the debut that he had on it, it is very 3 note per string, and there's a lot of the that whole crossing across the string, like that kind of thing that he
Move your
would
camera
do.
down. I can't see that.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, he would do a lot of.
And
Hang on a
anybody
sec.
interested, we're gonna get Steve hooked up here soon. I keep threatening. We're gonna get him hooked up so you could actually hear his guitar.
Yeah, we should probably end up doing that, but like that kind of
Right,
stuff.
right, right, right.
That
But
was really ingrained in me from a pretty early age of playing guitar
what
to
was
be
the most
able.
problem you had with that kind of stuff? Look at those sexy legs, buddy. Move the
Yeah.
camera up. Did you have more problem muting the strings, string noise? Did you have a problem with the picking attack and the direction of the pick, or the tone you were getting? What did you have any problems with those? With
No, for me, it was very much just. I started off really with that was just
okay,
doing
right.
like.
Move the camera down just a little again.
You want to see my
Yeah,
legs?
yeah. No, sexy time. Okay. Camera down just a little more. A little more. You won't get your legs. There you go. Yeah. Okay, some string skipping stuff.
But alternate picking.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Cuz do you know the intro to Skit Skat Wah?
I did. I don't think I could play it offhand, but
Okay, so my question was you pick all the notes. See, I do the top strings legato. I do the first
yeah.
3 notes legato, then pick the bottom notes.
Oh, really? No, I'd never
Yeah.
do that.
And I thought I saw Bruce do it that way too, and that's why I started doing
Yeah.
it that way.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I just did it. I just naturally. I always naturally just assumed that they did everything alternate
Yeah,
picking.
well that's what I thought with Ingve too, and then I come to find out that he does so much legato shit, man.
And as I got older, and more, I guess, more advanced as a player, I think like it was less about the alternate picking and more about the overall tonality. So legato became more of what I wanted to do, just to kind of accomplish the tonality. I
Right.
didn't want that like real staccato, because the way that I pick is very staccato. Very
Yep.
staccato. So, but no, I think the hardest challenge that I've ever had with alternate picking isn't necessarily, any of the things that you were asking. For me, it was just getting the speed. I was never really a speedy alternate picker.
Right.
Um,
Well,
and
that
I
would fool,
can't
that
do,
that fools me because I remember everything watching you was, man, you had some of that. It was all I mean, it was 80s, right? Whenever we jammed, there
yeah,
was a lot of and you had it again where I'm sitting there going, I'm trying to and with some legato mixed in there
right.
and then a few picks notes, you had this like and your tone of that was right on. You didn't have any of the noise. You were just dialed in.
I always wanted to be very, uh, I think the articulation, but that was also being staccato. I think like that was really from Steve Morse was
Oh,
probably my
okay, right.
biggest
Yeah, yeah.
influence. Yeah. So going back to him and then really there's a great Steve Morse exercise that, yeah, you know what? Let me show you
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
This is a great one. Can you see, Dave?
Yep.
So it's the F sharp,
Right.
then to the 9, then it alternates to the E.
Right. Yep.
And that's all you do.
I do remember that one. I remember back in the... right. And
but that's a great, that's
yeah, and when you get it up to... But you try not to be that sloppy. You get to a certain speed where it sounds...
right.
Now I'm getting all this noise, so... You got to find that spot where your left hand and right hand are working together, and also you're muting out the strings.
Yes. But what's good about that exercise for me was I would just put the metronome on and I would get it and I would move up. And once I got it there, I'd move up and then I'd move up and I'd move up. So it was really, that was a great articulation exercise. I still like that exercise.
Yeah.
But the problem for me is...
Do you move that around to other parts of the fretboard and strings
and
stuff?
That was the next thing I was going to say is that, like, I will move that around and try to, like...
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So just different things. But with alternate picking for me, I don't necessarily use it as much as I used to. I mean, you know, like when we got together, most of my stuff was legato, I'm trying to think like how much of what I do these days is really alternate pick.
Well, when you start getting into, again, the Robin Ford, the Larry Carltons, the more expressive players, I'm not saying Paul Gilbert and these guys aren't expressive, but when you're just dialing, picking and stuff, there's not a lot of variation on the notes. Whereas, man, when you're picking a note and I mean, if you just take a simple bend, right? But I pick it hard, or I pick it given an art, right? Or if I'm picking it just really lightly with my fingers. I mean, there's so much range with that, right? But when you're doing these things, you know, it's very... The one thing I did see a video of Paul talking about, which I never thought... See, I've always gone through the thing where I do not like pick noise. I do not like the pick attack when you hear...
No, yeah. Yep, I don't want... Yeah.
Now, if you're just picking, especially with a lot of grain, you're not hearing that. But you are. You're hearing the click before the note. So if you actually can hear that fast enough, you hear click, note, click, note, click, note, click, note, click, note, click, note. Now, the lighter you pick or the angle that you're at, it'll be different. You may not actually hear this, but it's in there. And I used to always try and remove that. Well, I heard Paul talk about a thing where he loves tilting the pick a certain way, and he likes the cello sound. And I was like, I never understood that was. So if I pick the lowest string or one of the lower strings with the pick flat against as opposed to angled against, you'll hear the difference. You'll hear the flat against, and I'm muting the note. Now if I angle the pick, you hear this little...
Yeah.
You hear a little bit of scrape. Here's the flat. I'll do it on the lower string. Now with the angled, you hear a little... Right? You hear that little scrape. And that's very cello-esque. And when you start thinking of it in those terms, you're like, wow, actually that cello does get that thick, hollow sound. So Paul's doing it like that, and he's getting that each note has a thick, hollowy sound to it. Never thought about that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. For me, I just try to get whatever I can get out of it.
Yeah,
It's like I can't even think about that. I just I know what I can do, and it's gonna happen for this one run, and then I gotta go all right, well, I gotta try to Yeah, I can't
Yeah.
think
But that's why these
like
guys, as we were
that.
talking before, those guys are, where they're at because they do think
Right,
about these things and they're, every
right,
day guitar in hand for 15 hours a day and they're hearing those notes. They want the sweetest sound. They want those certain tones.
right.
So real quick, let me get to this Rick Graham thing. What he was doing this little cool little thing where, and I don't even have it up to tempo, but he was doing. Uh, and then he came down an arpeggio. Uh, to an A minor arpeggio or something. But he does it so, he rips it and it sounds amazing, dude. So I was like, I
Yeah.
got to learn that. But when he actually did the little lesson part of it, he talked a little about how the very beginning run, this is all melodic minor, right? Which is basically you're doing A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. So it's basically an A. You can think of it two ways. People think of it. So if it's a melodic minor, you kind of want to think in the terms of it's minor, right? So you're thinking of a minor scale, which is root, second, minor, third, fourth, fifth, major sixth, major seventh. So it's really a minor scale with a major seventh. But you can think of it as a major scale with a minor third. So it's basically you have A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A, but
Right.
you lower that major third down to a C minor, so or a minor third. So A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. So that's your melodic minor. It's you can think of it however you want. But when
Right.
so all this top portion lick that he's doing on the B and E string is basically melodic minor. So you're playing when he gets up to here, he's at the C, which is your minor third. And there's your F sharp. I'm sorry. Right, he's just walking up melodic minor basically. So he walks down here. When he's doing a 3-note pattern, which is 5, 7, 8, and he walks up that 5, 7, 8, 5, 7, 8, 5, 7, 8, all the way up, and he does it so in such an articulate way and so fast, which I can't. And it sounds fine, right? But he's doing economy picking. So instead of doing down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, he's doing down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down. So he's letting that pick. And the reason people do that, I'll put it on my screen. The reason people tend to do that is because if you're doing down, up, down, when you go to that next string, the next string is an upstroke if you're doing alternate picking. But what you have to do is you have to pass that A string to get to the upstroke. So why would you waste your energy to pass that A string when you can hit the A string on the downstroke?
It feels weird to me.
It does, but it's economy because you're saving the energy of skipping over the string only to play the note on an upstroke. So if you just and basically the way Alan does some of this and what he teaches is basically you're doing down, up, down. It's almost like a classical guitar player that would do a rest stroke. So you're doing down, up, down, let the pick fall on the next string. Down, up, down, let the pick sit on the next string. Down, up, down, let the note pick sit on the top of the next string. Down, up, down, let the note. So down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down. So the point of this is he gets in that position where he's doing on the B string and E string, he's doing 5, 7, 8, 5, 7, 8. So when he comes down that pattern, he's not thinking melodic minor right now. He's still doing C. He instead of having that G sharp on the B string, he's still doing 5, 7, 8, and he comes back down.
Right.
So that's not melodic minor. Then when he moves up to this position, that's when he starts melodic minor. He changes that 8 fret note. He goes 8, 7, 5, slides back up to 7. Instead of playing 8, he plays 9. And that's your G sharp. That's your major 7 of the melodic minor scale. So now you're in melodic minor. So you're playing 7, 9, 10. Then on the next string, you're playing 7, 8, 10. And that's your minor third. That's your major 7, minor third. So he goes down this. On the B string, he slides up, and then he goes. Then when he gets that, he walks up that and back down that on the E string. So it's 7, 8, 10, back down to 7, and he slides that finger up a half step, goes to the next position of melodic minor. Then when he gets down there on the B string, he shifts up. Then he slides up on the E string. So it's sliding up on the B and E string alternatively. My point with this, which is a great little picking exercise, and it's a great little trying to get that feel of sliding on the B string, then the E string. And again, alternate picking. The cool thing about this is he discusses, sure, he could have walked up a melodic minor scale here. Right? He could have gotten right into it that way. But the difference between, especially if you're doing it fast, which I can't do it terribly fast, but... Right? Does that sound much different than... Right?
No.
It sounds a little that you can hear, but when you're doing it double the speed that I'm doing it right now, especially with muting and gain, you don't hear that. And that's where that Van Halen rule comes into effect, right? When he starts doing things like... all those kind of things. Those are just licks, patterns, 11, 12, 14. So it's 11, 12, 14, 11, 12, 14, 11, 12, back down to 14. And then 11, 12, 14, 11, 12, 14, 11, 12, 14, back down to the 12. In fact, there he doesn't go up 3. He goes... He does it up here.
That's cool.
That's in the 1. He does that in a million different places. But again, if you've analyzed that scale, it's a pattern. 11, 12, 14, all the way up all those strings is not a scale. That is just using a pattern. So what I found fascinating about that, it reinforced the thing that, yeah, when you're doing those fast lines, you don't have to worry about every single note, nailing every single note. You're really just trying to get those, get it under your fingers. Get the understanding of the muting and the picking right, no string noise, and then go from there. But I love Rick Graham. If anybody hasn't watched Rick Graham stuff, if anybody's watching in the comments, let us know if you guys are fans of Rick Graham. He is a monster guitar, and not just technical. Like, he does some classical pieces, beautiful. He did Eric Johnson, I think it was Cliffs of Dover. It might have been that one. And Eric actually posted on his thing randomly, just said, man, you nailed that. And I remember Rick talking about that, going, that was, for Eric Johnson to say that I nailed his tune.
Yeah.
He's and that's just not just cover tunes. He jams, he improvises, and he's smoking. So good.
Yeah, no, he's a great player. I'm glad he's back.
Yep. So I don't know, man. We're under the 2 hours. We got started early.
I know.
I think we could wrap this up.
We went hard, man. We had a lot. I think we don't always have to have 2.5 hour marathons each week. I think we leave them wanting more.
Let's hope they do.
Let's do it.
So next week I was going to start it this week. I told Steve I was really going to start diving in. Things have gotten a little easier and lightened up in my world, so I have a little more free time, and I was going to start doing some of these more real YouTube videos, lessons during the week, maybe even a podcast by myself, just a live thing, sit while I'm transcribing something, just sit here for an hour or so while I'm transcribing something. If anyone wants to poke in, ask a question, watch what I'm doing, cool. If not, it could just be me. I mean, if I'm sitting here anyway, I might as well have the camera on, and if you want to be a fly on the wall and watch what I'm transcribing and learn it along with me, kind of like what Levi Clay does. Um,
Yeah.
but so I'm going to start doing some of that next week. I was going to do it this week, but I got the nasty, as you can hear in my voice, the cold or whatever the hell it was, flu. It wasn't a flu, but it brought me down for 2 days heavy, and it's going around everywhere. So next week is going to be hopefully a really good, fun week with a lot of stuff going on. Let us know if there's anything you guys are interested in.
Yeah, if there's anything like, I know I'm always thinking of stuff where I'm like, what can I have Dave transcribe for me? Because I'm lazy.
I
Yeah,
know that's why you started doing this.
yeah. I was like, but I haven't really brought you anything
No,
yet.
no, 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 no.
I still gotta do that. I gotta take advantage of our
Well, you
friendship.
still have to do. Listen. No, if I'm not throwing you under the bus, but I'm throwing you under
No,
the bus.
I mean,
You need to
I
get
know
that Holdsworth thing. You
that
need to do
that
that.
is that is really eluding me. So maybe what I'll
Yep.
do tomorrow, since it's going to be 6 degrees here in New Jersey, is I'll work on that. I'll check
Okay.
that out again.
We've got to do that jam that you wanted to do, where we just do a couple measures of a
Yes,
jam and
yes,
see how I approach it as opposed to how you approach
yep,
it.
yep,
But let me
yep,
know which one you're gonna do, and I'll do the same.
yep.
And then also, we got to get your audio. We got to get your guitar involved. Definitely
I know,
throw that ToneX
I
into
know.
some kind of thing. Get it on there, and let's get you. Because of course, the first few times we're gonna have problems with it, so we're gonna have to suss that out. And I keep
Yeah,
saying this "suss that out" thing. I don't even
I
know what that
know. You
means.
big suss that out fan. So
um,
anyway, but
yep.
yeah, no, we'll definitely get that all together for sure. And from my end, again, another week in the books. I wanted to just thank you, Dave. I mean, another great lesson. The Paul Gilbert stuff was super cool. Definitely going to go back and rewatch this and uh, try to pick up some of that stuff in the Rick Graham thing. And just another great episode.
Yeah.
And
Good hang, man.
we appreciate everybody watching. And we're just, like I said, every week we're just taking it little by little. And if people don't watch it, we're just going to do it for ourselves and
Yep.
have fun and hang out on Friday night. So you're all welcome to join us. And
I got
hopefully
one
everybody,
last question for you, Steve, to cut you off.
yeah.
Sorry. Are you still talking to Kay Morieka?
I have not spoken with him this week or last week, but I did post a Instagram thing and I tagged him on it,
Okay.
and he liked it. So yeah,
Okay.
we I haven't really messed around. I haven't had too much time. I try to go on Instagram and just
Okay.
check stuff out. But yeah, no, I haven't spoken to him in a couple of weeks, but I definitely he's there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He's
We got to start include.
excited.
I'm gonna hit Alan up this week finally after the NAMM show and all that. So hopefully I'll go to lunch with Alan this week and
Yeah, and I think
we'll see where
also,
things go.
one of the, before we wrap up too, one of our plans eventually, I feel like we're getting better finally at setting this up, but we want to start bringing guests on, and I don't know if it's going to be live or if we're going to just kind of do like an interview thing and have people, you know, come on with us, because we don't want to, we want to have it go smooth. Live is very precarious and it's all really stressful for Dave. So I don't know, how that's going to go, but we may bring some of our friends on who are, we have a couple of
Yeah.
quasi famous friends that are probably willing to be our guinea pigs.
I'm hoping to
So,
get Lawler and Tom Monda and a few other
yeah,
people. But
yeah,
Tom's more than a quasi. I mean, Tom's the shit, man. But so is
that's what I
Lawler. I
mean.
mean,
Like,
both of these
yeah,
guys.
but I think for sure we could get both of those guys to be our guinea pigs,
Yep.
and come and Tom's way more patient. Let's put it that way. I feel like he'd be way patient with us to
Yeah.
do this.
Lawler's
So,
not. That guy's like,
no,
no, I'm
no, he'd
joking.
be like, I'm out of here. F you guys. But
When you figure this
anyway,
out, I'm in. All
yeah,
right, man. Dude, super fun hang. Let's chat in the next couple days as always. Thank you everybody for checking this out. Like, subscribe, share, all that stuff. Please do watch the rewatch or share the rewatch with everybody. And if you want to watch again, we had a few Paul Gilbert licks, one really cool rhythm thing, and the Rick Graham thing or whatever. But it's cool little licks to learn. If you guys want the tabs or whatever, in the comments after this, write down below that you want the tabs, and I'll get that to you. All right. Have a great week, everybody. Steve.
See you, everybody. See you,
We'll
Dave.
chat. Later.